Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours, Dr. Obaseki, to formally introduce these discussions tonight. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank my brother, Pastor AUSTYN, and I want to thank all our attendees today. I also want to quickly state that today is actually the first of the series that we'll be running with a group of moderators that will include Reverend AUSTYN from the UK. It will also include Dr. Andrew Ribabo from Canada, a couple of us here in Nigeria, Dr. Matthew Ihaza, Barrister Frank Tietie, and Olorogun Theodore Ted Araki. Our speakers today, our keynote speakers today are Professor IGHO NATUFE. Professor IGHO NATUFE happens to have been my own old teacher at the University of Benin in the 80s. He's a professor of political science. He has taught extensively in Nigeria, in Canada. He's also a member of the Prime Minister's Advisory Board, and he is one of Africa's experts on Sovietology. So he understands basically what it means to break up nations and rearrange them. And he's presently the President General of the OKPE Union worldwide. Also, we have a most erudite senior brother, a Nobakai of the Great Benin Kingdom, an erudite scholar, a legal luminary, a senior advocate of the Supreme Court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and a former partner at the Ganifawa Chambers, no other than Chief Michael Ozekhome. He's a constitutional lawyer, and we all know his pedigree. Our topic today, which will be handled by the Reverend AUSTYN, he will handle the whole thing today. He's a pastor and a very close son and mentee of the great Archbishop Benson Idahosa and the Church of God Mission. So I thank everybody for joining us today. Our topic will be basically looking at restructuring Nigeria and the clamor for self-determination. As a maligned people, I think we are the most marginalized persons within the space we call Nigeria today. We'll be looking at the perspectives from the Midwest perspective regarding self-actualization or self-determination, the quest for restructuring Nigeria. And we're looking at it from both a historical and a legal constitutional perspective. So I'll hand over back to today. I'm a participant, I'm an observer. So I'm handing over now to my most reverend brother, AUSTYN. Take over.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, without much ado, much time has been spent, and I think that this subject needs to be extensively dealt with. All right. I'll now please call on our most respected Professor NATUFE to deal with the subject that has been posted.
Good. Thanks a lot. I thank you all, Dr. Obaseki and his colleagues, for inviting me to take part in this august occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we are dealing with a topical issue that almost every Nigerian is an expert, because we've been hearing of restructuring for such a long time, very high volume. But do we really know what we mean by restructuring? Because it is like a fanciful lady. People admire her for different qualities, but we don't agree on the qualities of admiration. So with restructuring, what does it really mean? What it is and what it is not? Briefly put, I would say that restructuring is to rearrange or reorganize or reshuffle or to redistribute the properties or components of a phenomenon. The primary purpose of restructuring a polity like Nigeria is to establish a measure of equilibrium, equity, fairness, and justice to all parties concerned, anchored on their respective independence in core areas of jurisdiction. So in a nutshell, restructuring is an equitable, fair, and just rearrangement of the federal units in a way that recognizes the independence and distinctiveness of all ethnic nationalities. But then, if we agree that this is what it is, let us try and see if we can agree on what it is not. Restructuring is not a mechanical rearrangement of the political system to benefit the major ethnic nationalities and worsen the subjugation and marginalization of minority ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. This point is very vital because it will reoccur in our conversation this evening. We all know that prior to independence and since independence, Nigeria, we have a tripodal hegemonic system controlled by the three major ethnic groups, the Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba, which we all refer to as the tripodal hegemony. Let us look at the stages of restructuring in Nigeria. That will give us a base on which to situate this conversation. The 1914 British amalgamation structured Nigeria into three components: the colony of Lagos, the Southern Protectorate, and the Northern Protectorate. Since then, Nigeria has been restructured 7 times. Beginning from the Richard's Constitution to 1963, we had 3 regions: East, West, and North. Then we have 4 regions from 63 to 67 under an elected civilian government. And these regions were the East, Midwest, North, and West. Midwest, we all recall, metamorphosed into Bendel. And out of that, we now have Edo and Delta states. The next stage of restructuring, in fact, the next stage and up to the 7th stage of restructuring, were all under military dictatorship. From 67 to 76, we had 12 states. From 76 to 87, we had 19 states. From 87 to 91, we had 21 states and the Federal Territory of Abuja. From 91 to 96, we had 30 states. And since 1996, we have 36 states. So we see that we have restructured Nigeria, but we still want more restructuring. Irrespective of this series of restructuring, the clamor for further restructuring continues to define political debate in Nigeria. The proponents of restructuring differ on its form and content. While a faction views restructuring as a return to the tenets of federalism in pre-1966 January, a second faction argues for the convocation of a sovereign national conference to determine the base and structure of a new Nigeria. And the third faction regards restructuring as a conversion of the existing 6 geopolitical zones into federating units. Furthermore, the report of the 2014 National Conference proposed the creation of additional 18 states in its response to restructuring to bring the total number of states to 54. In my view, to restructure a political system is to reform its components and redistribute the relationships governing the powers and responsibilities of all levels of government. Especially in a supposedly federal system like Nigeria, such a restructuring is expected to recognize the exclusive jurisdiction of the federating units in critical sectors of industry and the economy, as evidenced in the 1963 Constitution. The resistance to this has been very loud, as the opposition perceives restructuring as a code name for the dissolution of Nigeria. In fact, those opposed to restructuring are primarily concerned about forfeiting their benefits of the current distorted federal system. So we see in the system a push and pull of opposites. But again, in my view, restructuring is becoming an obsolete concept, particularly as its proponents have been unable to submit a definitive proposal for the restructuring of Nigeria. Everybody talks about restructuring. Even the government in power manifesto talked about restructuring, but we've not seen anything. Political party leaders from across boundaries talk about restructuring. But then I want us to consider 6 key issues here about restructuring. Does restructuring mean a return to the pre-January 15, 1966 federal structure? That is one view. Or does it mean a restoration of the 63 Republican Constitution for the current 36 states of the Federation? Does it mean the creation of more states? Is that how you restructure? Does it mean resource control? Does it mean the conversion of the current 36 states into 6 or 8 or 10 geopolitical regional federating units? Which body in Nigeria determines the form and content of restructuring? Is it the National Assembly or a duly convened National Conference of Ethnic Nationalities? I say this last point because Nigeria is a collection of ethnic nationalities. We can say that and we recognize it, not that we say it. It's a fact that Nigeria, the ethnic nationalities are the core federating units of the country. Because prior to the arrival of the British colonialists, these were independent entities, kingdoms large and small or medium sized, with clear administrative functions, military installation. We all talk about the great Benin Empire. That was a government more structured and properly organized than most countries in Europe at that time. But we've now forgotten about the component units of the country. So the state creation imposed on Nigeria by various military dictatorships mainly balkanized the three major ethnic groups into states. That was the main function of the 7 stages of restructuring that we got from the military. Thus, by military fiat, the Hausa Fulani have 10 states, the Yorubas have 7, and the Igbo have 5. That gives us a total of 22 out of 36 states. That leaves the millions and millions of minorities to scramble over 14 states. Now, as we all know very well, politics concerns itself with who gets what, when, and how. That is to say, politics is all about the struggle for an access to power. If you don't have access to power, it means you are denying growth and development in your area. Now, with the Hausa Fulani having 10 states, the Yoruba 7 states, the Igbo 5 states, and with the position that there will be a minister from each state, this tells us that the Hausa Fulani are guaranteed at least 10 ministers, the Yorubas at least 7 ministers, the Igbos at least 5 ministers. But then let us move to our area of concern, the Midwest, Edo and Delta states. So while the Yorubas have 7 ministers, the Hausa Fulani 10, and the Igbo have 5, you come to Edo State, where there are 4 main ethnic nationalities. Then you come to Delta State, where you have 8 ethnic nationalities, again in alphabetical order: Anyama, Ika, Isoko, Ichekiri, Izon, Ndokwa, Okpe, and Urobo. Now you have one of them has a minister. So you clearly see the imbalance and the inequity in the restructuring of the country, which we inherited from the military, and the resistance that we're having against a proper restructuring. The resistance comes from those who benefit from the distorted, from the horribly miscued concept of restructuring. That being said, what do we propose? How do we get to what we might call, there is no perfect restructuring, but what we might call an acceptable level of equity, fairness, and justice? I propose the following. 1, the creation of homogeneous federating units for the 15, I repeat, for the 15 most populous ethnic nationalities that have contiguous boundaries, respectively. These federating units will be 15 homogeneous ethnic-based states for the Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, Izon, Kanuri, Fulani, Ibibio, Tiv, Bini, Okpe, etc. We get the 15 most populous ethnic groups in the country to have their own states. So you don't have the Hausa having 10 states, or the Yoruba having 7 states, or the Igbo having 5 states. No, they'll have 1 state. Each will have 1 state. Then the second one is the creation of a maximum of 15 heterogeneous, that is multi-ethnic federating units, federating states for the other ethnic nationalities. An ethnic nationality occupying a defined contiguous boundary in a heterogeneous state shall constitute an autonomous region with due constitutional jurisdiction. It shall also have concurrent jurisdiction with the heterogeneous state over natural resources discovered in each territory, but shall exercise exclusive jurisdiction over education, culture, language, and traditional institutions. A charter of rights and freedoms protecting minority rights will anchor this restructured federalism. Now, the clamor for restructuring and for self-determination. Let us remind ourselves that we in Edo and Delta states, who are indigenous to our respective states, we are covered by the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which was adopted in 2007. That gives each of us the right to declare our independence if need be, and we are protected by the UN, irrespective of the fact that Nigeria abstained from the vote, but it is an international treaty. So we have to think about all these issues in light of the debate in Nigeria, in light of the insecurity in Nigeria. We all have seen the maps put forward by the exponents of Oduduwa Republic and Biafra Republic. Their respective maps included our territories, Edo and Delta, without our consent, without our involvement. So we should begin to think amongst ourselves, between ourselves, Edo and Delta people, should Nigeria decide to dislocate, what are our options? We will not begin to articulate these options here, but let us think about it, because I think we have more together affinity between Edo and Delta people to forge a united front on core issues. And this is why this forum was established, the Midwest Movement, and I thank the founders for it. So the core element of my proposal is to strive for an equilibrium. We are not going to get 50-50 because we are smaller than the Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba, but we are co-owners of Nigeria, and we bring XYZ to the table of Nigeria. So we must be recognized by our contribution of what we bring to the table. You do not restructure by balkanizing yourself into 10 states, 7 states, or 5 states because you want to acquire federal cake. But you restructure because you recognize the independence, you recognize the jurisdiction of other members of the federation. So on that note, I will thank the moderator for allowing me this time, and I will take my leave and wait for debates and questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. What a wealth of information. And I want to just reiterate what our convener said earlier on about these discussions being an ongoing process. So I would really beg of you to ensure that you follow up on these discussions, because they will do us no good if we are so informed and we don't really know how to navigate our way or clamor for what we want. I'm quite convinced that there are a lot of people who have questions. I can see hands already going up. But just before we begin to take questions, I just want to quickly highlight some of the things that our respected professor said whilst he was speaking. That restructuring really is not new. It is actually obsolete. And also, he did mention that no comprehensive or identifiable document, there is no comprehensive and identifiable document for the restructuring. He did also mention that Nigeria, as it were, has been restructured 7 times since 1906. And then he did ask a question: do we return to the 1963 Constitution, or is it the National Assembly or is it the National Assembly for a convened conference of ethnic nationalities that should be saddled with the restructuring of Nigeria? And then his submission was that creation of homogeneous units of 15 largest ethnic nationalities perhaps would be the way to go. On that note, let me quickly, so that we don't get too much information that we don't know where to start from. So I'm going to, and again, he did also mention, sorry, I forgot to mention that his submissions, it mentioned as well that the creation of heterogeneous units of 15 other ethnic nationalities would be his submission. And so I want to ask our convener, Dr. Obaseki, to just make a quick response. Dr. Pedro, please.
Okay, I quickly want to say that I'm actually blown away by the take that Professor NATUFE has just taken. It has actually repositioned the entire narrative, as it were. Be that as it may, I think I'm actually tempted to ask a question, and that is, if we have 15 heterogeneous and another 15 homogeneous federating units, how do we handle federating units or ethnic nationalities that are small but have no congruous relationship in terms of landmass with areas that are neither? Let me explain. Among the Bachama, for example, in Bauchi State, they are totally surrounded by Hausa Fulani. Among the IGHOs of the Niger Delta, particularly the IGHOs in River State, they almost totally surround the Ogoni. And amongst the OKPE people, of which you are the president they're almost totally surrounded either by the Shekiris or the Urhobos, because the Urhobos will be large enough from this analysis to have a homogeneous federating unit. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Obaseki. Let me start with the last portion of your question, talking about the OKPE being surrounded by the Urhobo and the Shekiri. We are not surrounded. We have boundaries with our neighbors. And these boundaries are clearly defined on the map of the OKPE Kingdom. The river Ethiopia forms a natural boundary between us and the Urhobo in our Ogara, Jese, Mosaga region. And what is referred to as the wall also creates a natural boundary between the OKPE and the Shekiri. The OKPE boundary in the east and in the southeast is clearly defined also on the map. So we have no question of being surrounded. The issue of heterogeneity, you mentioned a group in, I think you said Bauchi State, if I recall. You mentioned the IGHO. The homogeneous and heterogeneous categories that I put forward account for the fact that there will be some minorities in any given state. Even as it is today, we have Hausa minority in some states. But if we do have a homogeneous state that is contiguous, then it solves the question. But let us assume that we take Edo State. Let's assume that only the Bini ethnic group will fall into the 15 homogeneous states we're talking about. Then what happens to the Esa, Ora, and Esako? These could constitute a heterogeneous state. And also in Delta State, they will constitute a state. And then the others can be grouped into heterogeneous states depending on given indices. For example, the Urhobo and the Isoko, for example, could be in one heterogeneous state, or the Shekiri and Isoko and the IGHO could be in a heterogeneous state. We know that the IGHO, as of today in Nigeria, is about the 4th or 5th most populous group in Nigeria. But they are scattered all over the Niger Delta, from Lagos to Akwa Ibom. If you don't have the numbers to form a homogeneous state with contiguous territories, that is, we look at the IGHO in Delta State and Bayelsa State and River State, do they have a contiguous boundary? If they do, then the part that does have will be in a homogeneous state, if they have the numbers. If they don't, then they will be in a heterogeneous state with defined powers and responsibilities, what I call an autonomous region of a people within a heterogeneous state, where they will have jurisdiction over their natural resources and over their language, culture, education, and traditional institutions. Well, this is a proposal, and I invite everyone to improve on it and to see if it is workable. If it is not, then let us get a more superior argumentation that we all can endorse and work with. Thank you.
Points are well taken, and I'm very sure that questions would follow for more clarity or for more discussions. Please, I know I did say that we'll take questions straight away to the subject matter that has been first talked about, but I've just been told that our second keynote speaker, Dr. Mike Ozekhome, has a pressing engagement that he needs to attend to. And so please, I want to appeal to you that you hold your questions for just a short while I give him the floor to look at this same question from the legal perspective and the legal implications. And I am also reliably told that he will be back again to sufficiently deal with this subject. Dr. Mike, the floor is yours, sir.
Let me thank you, moderator, and let me thank you, Dr. Pedro Obaseki, one of our luminous sons, who has projected this issue over and over again. And let me thank the very, very cerebral professor who interrogated this issue very thoroughly from a very, very highly theoretical perspective, even daring to provide solutions. Never met him, but I must say I'm quite impressed by the fecundity of his thought, the depth and breadth of his suggestions. Having said that, I just want to say that restructuring is not really rocket science, as some people have deliberately, particularly those who do not want to hear about the word restructuring, they've deliberately made it to look like rocket science. They made it look like it's an attempt to go to the moon or to go to another planet, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, or even to enter the hot sun. It is not true. It simply means to rejig, to rearrange, to refurbish, to reorganize ourselves and ask whether this marriage, this union that was brought about by force, by colonial dictator on the 1st of January 1914, whether that union is working. And if it is not working, then what do we do to make the union to work? That is what many people call the national question. And that is the meaning of restructuring. Restructuring simply asks the question, for example, why the federal government should be taking 56% of our national income, national revenue, leaving only 24% for all the 36 states of Nigeria, and leaving only 20% for the 774 local governments of Nigeria. How do we kill this embarrassing anachronism? That is the meaning of restructuring. Restructuring wants to know why Nigeria was working before now and why it suddenly stopped working. That is the meaning of restructuring. Restructuring wants to know why was it that before the 15th January 1966 military purge, led by Major Kaduna Nzogu Chukwuma, Ifejuna, Ademolegon and others, why Nigeria appeared to have practiced true fiscal federalism. And today we are practicing Fidiboto federalism, chop and come and chop politics. Politics of infrastructure, Mr. Ma, where 36 state commissioners of finance go to Abuja every month to take from our federation account under section 162 of the 1999 Constitution. In other words, everybody wants to share from the national cake. No one wants to know how that cake is baked. That is the meaning of restructuring. Restructuring means, or interrogates the question, whether Nigeria must even retain her name, Nigeria, a name coined for her. Don't forget, many countries of the world have changed their names. Republic of Benin today used to be Dahomey. Oh, Ghana of today used to be Gold Coast. Even the Democratic Republic of Congo used to be Zaire. Yeah. Many countries have changed their world, their own name. Because there are some names. Yes. Yes, thank you. Burkina Faso used to be Upper Volta. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There are names that are even a jinx. People say, what is in the name? I always tell them, there is everything in the name. If you think there's nothing in the name, give birth to a child and call him Vulture. Then you will see Vulture in your house. If that name was given by a young British journalist, Miss Flora Louisa Shaw, the daughter of a war general, a field marshal, to Nigeria on the 8th of January 1897, in an article she had written in the London Times. She said, that area, that territory called the Royal Niger Company territory, the name is too long, that area of pagans and Mohammedan states, let's call that name Niger area. Nigeria, corrupted to Niger area. To Nigeria from Niger area. That was how we got our name, Nigeria, on the 8th of January, 1897. Must we retain that name? One of us, Mr. A. Yari, God bless his soul, that fire-eating nationalist who died some years ago, I was present at his burial. He once said, why don't we turn this name around? Instead of Nigeria, call it IGHO, the Federal Republic of IGHO. At the 2014 National Conference, I actually proposed a change of name for Nigeria to that IGHO. And I said, I'm not the owner of the name. Someone else coined it. That motion was defeated. But my other motion, which was that we should go back to our earlier national anthem. Give me that book there. Nigeria, we hail thee. That national anthem called Nigeria. Nigeria, we hail thee. Yes. I said we should go back, and that was unanimously carried. I was later to write a book by that title, Nigeria, we we hear where I read the issues that came up at the 2014 National Conference. Question: that Nigeria that is no longer working, that marriage, that union that is infested with cancer, must we continue it at all costs? Is it compulsory we must live together? That is the meaning of restructuring. Are we not aware that the United Socialist Soviet Republic, USSR, was broken down in 1991, in December 1991, into 15 republics, independent states? Moldova, Latvia, Russia, Estonia, Uzbekistan. Some of the names are even unpronounceable. 15 different countries. Pakistan. In fact, one day I wanted to pronounce one of the names. I almost broke my jaw. But hello, they are all independent states, independent countries, sitting at the United Nations with great countries, with heavily populated countries like China, like India, like United States of America. Do you know one of these countries has just 1.8 million in population? Less than one local government in Lagos State? Because in Mushin or Isolo local government area of Lagos State, it's more than 1.8 million. Well, that's a full country. So when I hear people mouth inanities that Nigeria is indissoluble and is indivisible, I just laugh. At times I go for. I said they don't know what they are talking about. Did they not read the history that Singapore and Malaysia used to be one country? Did they know that Sudan and Southern Sudan used to be one country? Are they not aware that Ethiopia and Eritrea used to be one country? Do they get to know that Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, thank you, my brother, that they used to be one country? So why do they think if all these countries can split into units, including the USSR, going into 15 countries, of which the most prominent is Russia? Why do they think Nigeria must be bottled together, must remain together, must be forced together, that we must live together? This marriage that is not working between a husband and wife, even if the wife is carrying knives, pursuing the husband, carrying AK-47 rifle, killing the husband, even if one of the union members is raping the wives, mothers, and daughters of the other component, the other union, that marriage must go on? Do they know the meaning of social justice? Do they know the meaning of egalitarianism? Do they know the meaning of equity and good conscience? Did they never hear of our legendary martyr of democracy, Bashoru MKO Abiola, the man who paid the ultimate price of redemptive messianism for our democracy? Did they not hear him when he said as follows: I always hear people talk that we must have peace. Yes, peace is good. No, there's nobody against peace. After all, the cemetery, the burial ground is the most peaceful place on earth. But that is not the kind of peace we are asking for. We are asking for peace that is laced with egalitarianism, social justice, equity, mutual respect, religious tolerance, ethnic cohesion. That is what we mean. But that is the kind of peace we are talking about. Hello, when these people are saying we must unite together, they must talk about social justice. And social justice means restructuring this behemoth, this elephantine, this oppressive, this repressive, this suffocating union that has been tested but not trusted. Restructuring means that after we tried various constitutional experiments and they did not work, we must ask ourselves, what do we do next? Did we not try the 1942 Clifford Constitution? Didn't we try the 1946 Arthur Richards Constitution? Didn't we experiment with the 1951 Macpherson Constitution? Did we not toy with the 1954 Little 2 Constitution? What of the 1960 Independence Constitution? How about the 1963 Republican Constitution? When we now did away with the monarchical system of government. What about the 1979 Obasanjo Military Constitution? What about the 1989 unused, untouched IBB Constitution? What of the various national constitutional conferences? The 1995 Abacha Conference. What of the 2005 National Political Conference? I was there leading the civil society. What of the Vision 2009? I was there in the judiciary thematic area. What of the 2014 National Conference? I was in many states because of the people's cries. Nobody was at that national conference to recommend creation of states for the fun of it. It was 6 months of horse trading, the marginalized areas. Of an ethnic group is recognized like the Hausa ethnic group, like the Fulani ethnic group, like the Yoruba ethnic group, like the Igbo ethnic group. But today, when we talk, we see people trying to sit or stand Nigeria on a tripod. They talk about the Hausa Fulani. 1, they talk about the Yorubas. 2, they talk about the Igbos. Then I always ask them the question. To all the one ethnic groups. You thought Heaven and Net did not know what he was doing when he created me into a small village called IGHO near Agenebode in the East local government area of Edo State. Do you think God did not know what he was doing? Do you think I want to be a Yoruba man? Do you think I want, for all the money in the world and all the fame in the world, I want to be a Hausa Fulani or Igbo? I will not. Where do you place the Domas, the TVs, the Benis, the Ishans, the Okpes, the Urobos, the Chekires, the Jos, the Sokos? Where do you place the Ogolis, the F6, the Pibios? Where do you place the Galas, the Biras, the Gwaris, or the Bagis? What of the Zulus, who are a suffocating minority in Northwest, in Kebbi State? How many people know that the Zulus are a minority and that they are mostly Christians? What do you do with them? My brothers, that is the meaning of restructuring. My thesis is very large and expansive because I have worked on this over time and over the years to see that Nigeria is actually on a journey to no destination. We are flying without a compass. And any aircraft that flies without a compass crashes. The reason we are still here today is because God himself has been a Nigerian. I don't know what he has seen about us that he loves so much that he has decided to take up permanent citizenship of Nigeria. That is why we are still here. Not because we have done well at all for ourselves. So when you begin to marginalize some places in favor of some other places, in the name of unity, indissolubility, and indivisibility, and peace of Nigeria, you cannot hope to have a proper nation. That is why Nigeria is still yearning for nationhood. Go on a Sunday, drive around, and see the various town unions meeting at various destinations because they believe more in themselves. Igbo Union, even my own village union, we see their meeting. You see OKPE Union meeting. You see the Ishans. Even among the Ishans, you see Uromi people meeting, Ekoma people meeting separately. You will see in my own place again about the people meeting separately. IGHO Union meeting separately. Do you know why? Because it is to thy tents, O Israel. Everybody believes in his unit. Nobody believes in that larger contraction called Nigeria. Because it is not a working edifice. In America, where our brother who spoke, I think resides, if you ask a person, where are you from? Chances are that he will ask you, what do you mean by that? You mean where I was born? Or do you mean where I work? Or do you mean where I live? The reason that he may have been born in Atlanta, Georgia. He lives in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania or New Jersey. But he works in New York, which is nearby. So he asks you, what do you mean by where am I from? But in Nigeria, even the form you fill, any form you fill, after asking for your name, they will now ask for your father's name. Then they will ask for all your middle names. Then they will ask you, what is your mother's maiden name? Your mother, who married maybe 100 years ago and has died more than 50 years ago, they say, what is her name? They are going somewhere. They are driving somewhere. Then they now say, what is your state of origin? They haven't finished. Oh, they are driving somewhere. They say, what is your local government area? They haven't finished. Oh, they are driving somewhere. They say, what is your religion? Do you know why? These factors are going to determine finally who, guess what? Not your brains, not your merit, not your intellectual prowess or academic fecundity. Is that the kind of country we want to live in and bequeath to our children? Why I say today is my part one of my thesis is because when I have an opportunity to discuss part two, because I thank all of you because I'm also going to rush for today, you will discuss part two, sir. I'm going to discuss what is the way forward from this world, but I've not yet finished our rules. I thank you for giving me the opportunity. Please don't get tired of me because I've become an angry Nigerian. A Nigerian who sees the squandering of our riches, the messing up, the tearing apart of our Dolly Parton's coat of many colors. A country that should be proud of our 211.2 million people, about the fifth most populous country in the world. A country that in 2014 was rebased with over $500 billion capacity, but today has outstripped India as the poverty capital of the world. I'm angry because Nigeria that used to be incorruptible, not that there was no corruption, but it was minimized, has today become the 148th most corrupt country in the world out of 180 surveyed, and the second most corrupt nation in West Africa. And you don't want me to be angry? Go and look at section 140 of the 1963 Republican Constitution, which was a replication of the 1960 Independence Constitution. You will see the sharing formula. There were only few products. The region that produced that product took 50% and paid 30% royalty to the government at the center. Then 20% was divided among the regions, including the region that are taking 50%, who will also share from that 20%. Do you know what it led to? It led to a blooming and a blossoming of Nigeria's economy. Even after the forcible amalgamation of the Lagos colony, the Southern Protectorate, and the Northern Protectorate of Nigeria on the 1st of January 1914. Let's take it from the north, sirs, and mass. Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, the leader of the NPC, who sent his deputy, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, to the center in Lagos to become prime minister so that he would take care of his own people as premier of northern Nigeria. You know what he did? They had granite. You remember the famous Kanu granite pyramid? They had cotton. They had hides and skin. With this, Ahmadu Bello set up the Northern Nigeria Development Corporation, Northern Nigeria Development Corporation, NNDC, which was the vehicle, the driving force behind the giant developmental steps taken in the north. That was how he built the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, the Yankari Game Reserve, the Hamdala Hotel. I didn't hear, SARS, mass, that during this period, that pipelines were laid from Kaduna, the seat of government, to transport granite and hides and skin and cotton to Boroko in Delta State. I didn't hear that they took their wealth to Guni. I'm not aware that they took trailers of these products to Ibadan or Abeokuta. I'm not aware. So now, for us to have unity, for Nigeria not to be indivisible and indissoluble, we must lay pipelines for crude oil and gas from Delta, from River State, and from Delta all the way to Kaduna. We are now laying them to Katsina, to Maradi border, to Niger Republic, because we want to secure a Nigeria that must not break up. Let's fast forward, or let's rewind to the Western region. They had only one product, just one, cocoa. They had a great leader, the late sage, Obafemi Awolowo, the man who was said, Nigeria is a piece of geographical expression. There is no nation called Nigeria as we have the Welsh, the Irish, or the Scottish. He was damn right. Ahmadu Bello had joined him to say, and it's in the hazard of 1943, that Nigeria was a piece of historical mistake. They were right. Are we not a piece of historical mistake? Are we saying that mistake cannot be corrected? Awolowo used that mono product to develop the Western region. Take few of them. He set up the first television station in Africa, the Western Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation. He built the Liberty Stadium in Ibadan. He built the tallest building in Ibadan, Cocoa House. It's still the tallest building in Ibadan today, since 1956. He opened up the rural areas. He built the University of Ife, now appropriately renamed Obafemi Awolowo University. I'm a product of that university, the most beautiful university in Africa in terms of physical infrastructure up to now. Go and take a look there. I've gone around all the universities, most of them in Africa and Nigeria. But most importantly, he did one thing that no leader of his times ever thought of. He gave free education at all levels to the Yoruba people of Nigeria. That is why today, whether we like it or not, and it's not by force or by might, the Yorubas are the most educated, the most sophisticated, and the most enlightened set of Nigerians. It's because of the vision of one man who had access to his revenue. That's what we call resource control, fiscal federalism, instead of the unitary federal state we are operating today. Let's go to the East, SARS and MAS. In the East, the premiers, first Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, then Dr. Akanu Ibiam, then Dr. Michael Para, the man who revolutionized agriculture, the man who died without having a house. When he came from abroad from exile, friends had to rally around to build him a small house. They had just one product, the palm oil. It was said that Malaysia actually came and took some palm kernels from us. Today is one of the greatest or highest exporters of palm produce in the world. These people used that palm produce to build that stadium in Enugu, set up the University of Nigeria, Nsukka in Enugu, set up the Trans-Amadi layout and estates in Port Harcourt and Enugu, built the presidential hotels in Port Harcourt, Enugu, and Calabar, built, what do you call that place where we play in Cross River, where we go for on holidays?
Obudu Ranch.
Obudu Ranch. Built that Obudu Cattle Ranch because he could control the resources of his eastern, they could control the resources of their eastern region. Let's come to our own Midwest, our own dear Midwest region. Midwest region was a part of Western region. Each region had its own constitution, through federalism. Then there was a central constitution at the center. Whenever there was a conflict between a regional constitution and the central constitution, then the central constitution's provisions prevailed. The people wanted independence. They wanted to be on their own. Was this possible or not? Then a popular referendum, plebiscite of the people was carried out. And it was carried on the 10th of August, 1963. And the Midwest region came to be, which was later renamed Bende State, later balkanized into Edo and Delta State. Great men of Midwest region, Oba Akinzwa II, the spearheaded, Jereti Mariri, Justice Kensington Momo, the Oba, Chief Edebiri, who's still alive. People like Chief Tunia Nahuru, the man who moved Nigerians' motion for independence as far back as 1953, not 1957, as some people always mistakenly say. People like Dr. Festus Oketebo, people like Dr. Dennis Osadebe, they spearheaded the creation of Midwest region. And when we had it, we had rubber and timber produced. With this, guess what? We were able to set up the Ughelli glass industry. We set up the Okpila cement factory. The Auchi Polytechnic or School of Technology came to be, which was the precursor. And when people talk about this, I always tell them, go back into history. Because if we don't learn from history, we will never get the present right. We will never peer into the future with clear binoculars. We will continue to use blood binoculars. Do you know why the vehicle has a large windscreen in front and a small side mirror? The large windscreen is to enable you to see properly into the future, into the front. But there's still a side mirror to enable you to look back to where you are coming from, so as to see whether danger is coming, or whether you are doing well on your journey. I tell them, look at the American system. They became living on their own. Then between May 25 and September 17, 1887, they decided to meet in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to have a convention. And the purpose of that convention was to have a more perfect union. They were already union. They said we wanted a more perfect union to give some, to cede some powers to a government at the center, to take care of Foreign Affairs to take care of central banking, central currency, then defense of our union. 55 of them came to Pennsylvania. 33. After 6 months between May 25 and September 17, they finally agreed on the articles of association, how they wanted to live together. 39 of the members signed. They subjected it to the people for a referendum to agree. It was that conference that threw up great America. And we know a government that is one of full of law when the government shares the people, or it is the people that share the government. Because at that conference, the people agreed on the doctrine of separation of powers, that they must have a government separated into the legislature, the executive, in 78 by great French philosopher Baron de Montesquieu. It was then they agreed on the doctrine of judicial review of administrative or executive action. That was how America has only had 27 amendments to that constitution, because the people believed in it. It was their own document. It was autochthonous. It was homegrown. It was indigenous. It was their product. 27 since 1887. And the entire constitution had just about 7,591 words, or 7,951 words, whichever way you reverse it. I can't quite remember. It's a small constitution, a small pamphlet, because the people believed in it. Do we have such a constitution? The answer is no. What we have today, that we are currently operating, is a schedule attached to Decree number 24, 1999, which was promulgated by the Abdul Salam military government, given to Justice Nikki Toby, panel, God bless his soul, to cobble together, and boom, we had a constitution. And the elections in 1999 were even conducted without a constitution that brought in Obasanjo. And then the constitution started by lying in its preamble that we, the people of Nigeria, do hereby give to ourselves the following constitution. And I say no. That constitution is a fake document. It's not the people's document. It does not enjoy the legitimacy, believability, acceptability of. Then, Mr. Chairman, permit me to stop here. When I have an opportunity next time, I do not believe in just damage assessment. I believe in what is the way forward. I will be able to. God bless you. Thank you all for listening to me.
I think that, this information that we've been given tonight, I really hope that they will really help us. They will inform us to take the necessary steps to redeeming ourselves from this contraption that's not working. Just to quickly summarize, number one, he did say that restructuring is not rocket science. And he also said that restructuring queries the Nigerian marriage that is not working. Why is the federal government taking 56%? Why 36 states take 24 and 774 local government share 20%? What a question that begs for answers. Again, he did mention the fact that Nigeria practices feeding bottle federalism, section 162 of the faulty. Hold on, let me just of the faulty 1999 Constitution. Thank you, Dr. Obaseki, for prompting me there. Although he did mention again that must we retain the name Nigeria, a name without meaning? And he then alluded to Chief MKO Abiola, who said peace is good. After all, cemetery has peace. There must be social justice to free us all from the suffocating union that has been tested but not trusted. He did also mention that the tripod of Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo is a fraud that marginalizes the remaining 350 plus ethnic nationalities. He mentioned that we all believe in ethnic units. Nigeria hardly exists in the consciousness of the average Nigerian. He also mentioned the fact that we must discard state of origin, local government, and religion. They use these to determine who gets what and not value-added potentialities of our abilities and capabilities. He also mentioned the fact that the 50-30-20 revenue sharing formula, as enshrined in the section 140 of the 1963 Republican Constitution, leads to the blossoming of regions. I strongly agree with that. And then he mentioned as well that each region has its own constitution. I'm sure that most of these points that I'm just trying to reiterate, some of them are quite new to some of us, and I think that this gives a lot of credence to why we should have these discussions, as it does inform us to take the necessary steps. And the last point that I noted here was the fact that the 1999 Constitution is a fake document. In fact, I was blown away the first time I heard a senior advocate talked about that on Arise News, that it's just an illegal document that was added to this that became what we are all now forced to work on. I mean, of course, we all know if you are building on a faulty foundation, we know what the repercussion would be. On that note, let me, if I may, I know that people are really waiting. I'm just going to take two questions for now. Maybe one from the historical perspective as given by our erudite professor, and then maybe another question from the legal perspective of what our senior advocate, all that he's talked about. And then straight after that, we would hear our next speaker, and then we'll then open the floor for other questions to come. So very quickly, Cynthia Ibineweka, if you have your questions, please just make it brief, because if you don't, I'm going to just have to interrupt you and move on to the next person. So you would ask a question based on what you heard tonight, and let's see if we can get some responses. Unmute yourself and ask your question, Cynthia, please. Unmute yourself.
Mute. Okay, good evening, everyone. My question goes like this, because now since we see everything that in Nigeria is not working, so why can't we know that Benin was a sovereignty of its own before the invasion in 1897, and we know that we have history that back it up. To liberate our people, why can't we not demand for the restoration of our sovereignty that was interrupted in the year 1897? Because if we go with that, we can even sue the British to the ICC for forcefully amalgamating the bite of Benin, the places that belong to the Benin, to the Nigerians. So because with that, if we go through it like that, at least all our people, the Urobo, the Shekiri, they can also be their own country. Because that is how our forefather built an empire, where everyone lived with under his own traditional ruler, except the Edo Oba, who was now supreme over them. So why can't we go back and demand for the restoration of the Benin Kingdom? Why?
Okay, thank you so much, Cynthia. I think that question would go more for Dr. Mike Ozekhome, because I think that there are legal implications to that, I suppose.
Yeah, there's serious legal implications. There are two ways to go about it. One, we agree to come to terms, and this is what I will speak on at my next segment. We agree to come to terms with a brand new constitution, the People's Constitution, where we will agree as to how to, by the way, restructuring does not necessarily mean breakup or dismemberment. No. We cannot decide in that restructuring process who and which people should be together and under what umbrella. Cynthia is quite right. Beautiful point you have made. That the Benin Kingdom, a very proud people, were already on their own. Before in 1914, January 1, first war amalgamation, you already had the Hausa city-states, the Igbo city-states, the Kanem Bonu Empire, the Oyo Kingdom, the Alafio for the Oyo Messi, Ile-Ife, the cradle of the Yoruba race. We had of great historical figures, Nana of Ichekiri, King Jaja of Opobo, Madame Moremi, Queen Amina, Queen Idia. They were already there. In Benin, Oba Ovoranwe Nobaisi was already ruling. I go and look at what the Portuguese said about the Benin Kingdom, the Benin Empire. They said when they came to Benin, they were surprised that this was a state that was well governed, with the king at the apex. You had subordinates. That the government was so well structured. There was peace and tranquility. That the streets were well paved. And that they even had street lights that were powered by palm oil. The Portuguese wrote that of the Benin Kingdom. Then in 1897, the British colonialists who felt we are nobodies decided to come to Benin in December, join the Igwe festival. And they were told, this is a holy month when visitors were not allowed into the kingdom, whosoever they are, because it amounted to sacrilege and profanity and desecration of the cherished customs, traditions, and values of the people. The British decided to come to the place, to invade the place, whether they liked it or not. For which the guards, there were guards, security men everywhere. They got them and killed them because they were intruders. And for that, the British carried out the infamous Benin Punitive Expedition, over which King Ozekhome was deported to Calabar, where he lived for, I think, another 27 years before he died. So one of the areas that will therefore be discussed will be, why should these people who were already on their own well more than 100 years ago, why should they continue to stay in an unbearable system where they are not given their due rights? How do they go separately? That is part of the restructuring we are talking about. Who will want to go with the Beninese? That is the restructuring. At the 2014 conference, for example, I tell you, when we're discussing this issue of regionalism and all that, the Lagos State people came with their own position paper that they did not want to go back to Ibadan again. But he came back with their own position paper that they did not want to go back to Enugu again. So if you look at these issues and the fact that Benin was not only a sovereign state, but having sovereignty and sovereignty within its area, and it was expansive, including it went as far as Urobolan, up to Onitsha. The Onitsha people are Beninese. Go and check the history. They expanded up to Owo, on those side. They expanded up to Republic of Benin. In fact, Eko, Lagos was founded by Prince of Benin Kingdom. Eko in our language simply means Upeko, small quarter, a quarter. So just a quarter. Why would those people not be given their due in a country? That's why I say Cynthia's question is very relevant. God bless you.
I'll open the floor for questions and answers. Let me take Apostle Godwin, because he's been sending me messages to say that he's lifted up his answer. Apostle Godwin, could you please unmute yourself and ask your questions, please?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Reverend Austin, I appreciate Dr. Pedro and Senior Advocate Ozekhome. Thank you for your wonderful piece. My questions are two. Number one question, I have asked this question before to Donpedro, my uncle, and I'm asking this question again. Midwestern region, they have their constitutional rights to their independence, to their own sovereignty. And what have we been doing about it? Because in this quest of agitation from different quarters, nothing, if you look at the federal character, especially the Benin, the Edo State, we are being marginalized in terms of government policy and everything. You don't see what Benin there. Secondly, having said that, what do we do about this, our independence? My second question is it possible if we, the Midwestern region of the Bendel, can we be able to still declare our sovereignty with the 1963 Constitution that declare Midwestern region on their own? Thank you, sir.
Let's take your question, Uche, Joseph Uche. Please just unmute yourself and then ask your question if you may.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Right. This is my, it's firstly, it's a privilege, having to be able to talk to the Prof and Dr. Ozekhome. I know he's left the forum.
Can you see your face if you don't mind?
Yeah, I don't know how to just that video. Yeah, can you see my face now?
Yeah, sure. Just a little bit of lighting would. Yes, but this is good.
Right. Why don't we spend our effort and resources trying to empower our people to create wealth for themselves, right? And then once they create wealth for themselves, then we can begin to foster political emancipation. Because a hungry people is an angry people.
Yes, good evening. My name is Evangelist JC Osemi. I'm the coordinator of indigenous people of United Kingdom of Great Benin. I want to thank everyone that have contributed to this meeting today. We, the indigenous people of United Kingdom of Great Benin, we have realized that the situation that is going on in Nigeria, a certain group of people refuse to restructure And if they decide to, we are fully in support with what our brother Donpedro is doing, calling for the restructure, for us to go back to Midwestern region. But if they fail to do so, that is why we, the indigenous people of United Kingdom of Great Benin, has come together to say that it is time for us to unify ourselves and restore our sovereignty, which was interrupted in the year 1897. So we are calling on all the indigenous people to prepare, because the way Nigeria issue is going, the Biafras and the Oduduwas, if the federal government or the system of Nigeria continue like this, one day definitely the UN or wherever might give the authority or give the power to these people to actually break away from Nigeria. My question remains that if Nigeria refuses to restructure, as we are asking them to do, then what is the way forward for the people of Benin? When I mean the people of Benin, I'm talking of the so-called minority people in Nigeria.
Fantastic. That's well observed. Well noted. Well, thank you so much, my brother. Thank you. God bless you. Appreciate that question. All right. Go to your question and ask the question. Reggie Akpata, over to you. Please ask your question, if you may. Unmute yourself.
Okay.
And ask your question.
Okay. Yes. Thanks. I hope you're hearing me. And I'd like to thank the contributions of everybody and the organizers of this discussion. But I'd like to point out that we have failed to mention in this discussion a four-letter word called land. In Benin, we have a situation in terms of land where we can easily see value. Now, I'm an optimist. I see value in the land bordering the Niger. I see value in the land bordering the Warri River, all of these places. But this is at the fundamental core of what's happening here. I cannot grab a piece of land in my father's land and say that it's mine. I can't. It's owned by the governor of a state in a federal government. Where is that? Until you resolve some of these issues, we talk about a lot of political things, but we're not talking about fundamental things like land. We have a federal government that has instituted a state government that sits on our most valuable land, telling us that we don't have money. What sense does that make? If you look in front of that golf course, and I talk about Reservation Road, and if you've been to Benin, you'll be familiar with this road. It runs in front of the Motel Benin Plaza, all the way past the golf course, all the way up to roundabout there. If you look at that land, if I tell you, if you bring a land investor and tell him, hey, you can now build golf course view townhouses here, but we don't own our own land. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about changing if we can't change fundamental things like this? You don't own your land. Think about that. Think about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. That's an excellent question. That's excellent. And I would love to get the professor's response to that particular question. Let me quickly ask Dixon. So if I can pronounce it properly, but Dixon, please, if you may unmute yourself and just ask your question. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Robert. My name is Dixon, and my question is straightforward.
Thank you.
Is the 1999 Constitution workable? Is it reworkable? If not, what is the way forward? If those who are unethically, unequitably benefiting from the faulty foundation of the 1999 Constitution refuse to restructure, what would be the way forward if that same constitution is not workable? Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Let me take Sankara. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Sankara, if you're there, unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hello. Good day, everyone, and thank you. Also, another brief question. What do we do if our leaders are not interested in considering constitutional reform or considering any type of restructuring? What do we do if we have leaders like that? Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you. Thank you. Noted. Let me take our brother. Solomon, I'm going to call you, but because I gave you a chance before, allow me to ask others and I'll come back to you to ask you in a moment, please. All right. Pastor, Dr. Sorry, I can't say the full name properly. But I think, is it Odalu something? I can't see the full name here on the screen, but if you're there, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Pastor, Dr. Odalu something. I can't see the full name properly. If you're there, okay, good. Please ask your question.
Good. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Just go ahead and ask the question, please.
Okay. I want to appreciate the how we have and the two keynote speakers that have delivered these lectures. They have done absolutely well, I must confess. Looking at the situation of our nation today, especially with this state of insecurity, killings that are going on, and the state we are presently in Nigeria, a situation whereby the present government is not willing to make things happen the way the people want it. What should we do? What is our fate hanging upon as a nation? And coming narrowly down to the our state, Edo State, Edo Delta, Bendel. What can we do to move ahead, looking at the present state of this nation, Nigeria?
Thank you so much. I think that
there is no hope that this government can salvage the situation. What should we do?
All right, sir. That's well noted. Well noted. And I'm sure that we will get answers to all these questions. I've been, dear brother, Dr. Charles Omorodio, please unmute yourself and ask your question, sir. Yes,
good evening. Thank you very much for a well thought out program and very educating and insightful. My question is very short. It's that of devil advocacy. In event of Nigeria breakup, how do we reclaim back the Bight of Benin that was ceded when Bende was created out of the old Midwest region? That's my question. Thank you.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Noted. Let me take my brother Solomon. Solomon, just unmute yourself and please go straight to the question, and we will see if we can give some answers. Solomon, the floor is yours. Unmute yourself, please, and ask your question.
Thank you, Moderator. I said that I didn't already deserve a second bite at the apple, given that I'm already taking enough time. But this is a very important subject, and I think that the more we're able to interact, the better the output will be. Because the NATUFE appears to have proposed what political scientists will call ethnic federalism. A good example, the only example actually that I think that we probably have in the world today will be Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is foldering, is pondering, is breaking apart. So I don't know whether Professor NATUFE take that into account in assessing or in proposing, in assessing the viability of his proposal. Secondly, speaking as a lawyer, and one who taught international law for many years, the UN treaty, the UN Declaration on Indigenous Peoples, which you refer to, is not a treaty. It's a declaration by the General Assembly of the United Nations. Therefore, it is not. It doesn't have a lawmaking character. A United Nations General Assembly is entitled to make recommendations. So it is not a law that states are bound by the way you are bound by a treaty, for example. But I wouldn't want to belabor this. Finally, this is my last point. When we talk about structures, and I've heard more than one person talk about the old Benin Kingdom and so on and so forth. Now, let us just summarize how we got to this point where we are today. In 1899, there were three basic structures in our country, three basic structures. There was the Lagos colony and the protectorate, Yoruba protectorate, and next to the colony of Lagos. And this territory was administered directly by the Crown appointed the governor of Lagos. Then, in the area of Midwest, now what we call Midwest.
Sorry to interrupt. Not because I'm trying to hush you or, but I just would appeal that just if you have any question, just go straight to the question, ask why is this so or why is this, just give us your question. So
Moderator, I regret that I'm not having an opportunity to elevate this discussion. I didn't come here. I'm sorry about that. I didn't come here to ask questions. I came to continue. Okay. I will leave at that point. Let me withdraw at that point.
Listen, my brother. Sorry to interrupt you. Let me tell you something. Down your points. It's just waiting for because when we have you or something. So Dr. Pedro, please unmute yourself and if you may, before I take the last two questions and then we move on.
I want to first of all quickly state that sometimes it is not too good when elderly people are looking so young. It was a picture I saw. I didn't even see the full name. It was when you mentioned his name. I know him. He's a very, very grounded, erudite, legal luminary. Solomon Okwegbe has a PhD in law. He was not even on the faculty of the University of Benin until most recently. So I want to apologize to you, my most senior colleague. I am sorry. Well, now this is your shiny head when you go moru, so you wear young man glasses, can't carry no hair, no white hair, no nothing. So I want to apologize sincerely. It's because it is the persons like you that we want to continue to engage, because you cannot move the people forward until you raise their brain power upward. And we need persons like you who have so much to contribute. So I'm going to break the law now and maybe appeal to the Board of Trustees that next week when we have Dr. Michael Ozekhome, we should actually pair both of you and we look at the strict legal implications and the constitutionalities, surrounding what is happening in Nigeria. He graduated from the university when I was entering the university, so we'll not be mates. in Benin we say, even for witchcraft seniority day. I'm very sure that with persons like you who are involved now, and for you to attend this, I think is actually an acceptance of the fact that we sit on the keg of gunpowder. It is to navigate our way so that we do not become collateral damage for any impending conflagration. Anybody who thinks Nigeria is a state, that person is also in another state. Nigeria is in a very massive. I live here. I'm talking to you from my parlor in Benin. So it's not a matter of whether or not that I'm just grandstanding. I apologize, sir. Please. I think you should drop your number or an email with us so that we can reach you. Or if I can't, I will try and reach you through Oga Beni or also with Professor NATUFE. Thank you. I just wanted to put that. It's not having to do with the questions being asked. Thank you, man.
Yes, let me take Osamu Jame to please ask his question. Please unmute yourself.
Osamu Jame is an activist, so don't go I've said president before.
No. He would ask his question. Just go through the question and ask, please. Okay, whilst we're waiting for him, let me go to Peter Omonwa. Peter Omonwa, please ask your question if you're still with us. Unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And thank you, Dr. Obaseki, for giving me the privilege to attend this forum. I just want to say whether at this point we should actually be considering in any remote sense the remodeling of the current constitution. I think like Dr. Ozekhome said, there are only two options staring us. One, either a complete restructuring or total dissolution of the union. So toying with the idea of, okay, is there a way we can tinker with this constitution that will make the Nigerian state feasible? I don't think it's based on all the other meetings I've attended, and I do attend quite a lot of meetings with the IGHO World Congress and the Oduduwa movement. I know most of them have moved past the level of let's find a way to make this correct constitution work. So I'm just thinking maybe we should be looking along that path than thinking of how to help the union to manage this current constitution. That is just my observation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Rightly noted. Osamu Jame, please, would you now ask your question, please?
All right. Thank you very much. Good evening. Can you hear me, sir?
Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Moderator. My leader, Dr. Pedro Obaseki, he said I'm an activist. But that is what the system has done, and keep speaking until the country gets better. I just want to quickly a very big question that everybody
Osamu Jame, we're struggling hearing you. I think your network is very bad. You're breaking up so badly. So I don't know if you want to do something.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's a little bit better now. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for what you did. I'm into the house. Thank you for this program. We appreciate it. The question I want to ask is very straight and direct. I've been asking since the beginning of this program. But before I ask that question, I just want to remind us that our people are suffering, our people are hungry, our people don't have
Okay, good.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Well, very interesting questions, and I think in an issue of such magnitude, whether it is in law, history, or political science, or in any field whatsoever, there's bound to be counter proposals and counter solutions and counter analysis. That is what makes the transfer of knowledge so important. And so, okay. And I think many of the questions talked about restructure. What are the alternatives? So I think if the regime regulators refuse to accept restructuring, then it only can suggest that they are advising Nigerians to consider the other alternative to restructuring, which is dissolution. Restructuring and dissolution are two issues on the table for doing the same thing you're doing now and expect people to be happy and to live under such a condition. By refusing to restructure, you are suggesting that people should adopt the alternate method, which is by declaring your independence. Because part of this discussion tonight was on the issue of self-determination. Do we, as a people, do we have the right of self-determination? The UN, over 50 years ago, 1960, self-determination. And in fact, It was that resolution that India used to take, and the Indian government of the day evokes that UN resolution. My colleague, Professor Kwegbe, yes, I agree that the United Nations Declaration on Indigenous People hasn't got that legal backing, but it has, which is very important in international studies, it has a strong moral backing. Yes, we might argue, some of us will argue that there is no morality in politics, but in choosing our allies in international relations. Nations declare their independence, or people declare their independence, and there are nations in the world who will recognize that declaration and cite precedent in support of that, their support. So we should not shy away from looking at that possibility. Just as a sidetrack, he also talked about ethnic federalism. Yes, Ethiopia gave some international meaning, recognition to that phrase, ethnic nationalism, ethnic federalism. Federalism has come under different appellations. Some will say we want fiscal federalism. Some will say we want national federalism. So it makes no difference. The important thing is how you manage the separation of powers. The fact that Ethiopia is in a quagmire is not necessarily the fault of ethnic federalism. Nigeria, I don't know if Nigeria is in a better state, though we're not at war, but look at the infrastructure, the decay in Nigerian society. How do we compare that to what Nigeria ought to be? And a questionnaire was asking us about how do we empower the population to know their rights. Well, first and foremost, we say in political science, social sciences, that a country gets the leadership they deserve. And then we ask, do we deserve the leadership we have in Nigeria? Most of the vociferous critique of government, of political leaders, they are the same Nigerians who, at election time, will come to a candidate and be given half a bag of rice or a cup of rice to sell their vote. So the poverty level is such that the leaders exploit this, knowing that every 4 years they can just give rice, half a cup of rice or a bag of rice for a community to share and get their votes. But you see, Modibo Keita once said that people who applaud thieves in government, they have no right to condemn poor governance. So the whole system of socialization in Nigeria is built around the worship of wealth. Should I dare say, the worship of stolen wealth? While some of us may be arguing for a rethink of that social consciousness, we haven't got the resources that the parliamentarians have today to shape public opinion. You and I can talk from the rooftop. The same people who are trying to free from their predicament, they are the ones who will come to you and I and say, this one said, oh, you both night they talk, man, they're hungry, sharp. But this is the mentality that we have to deal with. So how do we, because it's not what, we don't expect the parliamentarians to come and tell the people how to create wealth, because they will not. Not that they will not, I would say perhaps only about very small percentage of them will. Look at your various local government areas, look at your state constituencies, what is happening with constituency projects that they got, paid for by taxpayers' money. Who monitors them? The people in the villages or in towns or in hamlets that were supposed to benefit from these projects, there are also some of those that have been compromised because, again, of poverty. But consciousness is what we lack. How do we inculcate consciousness into our people? The point of what I'm making is that for us to have a social movement, like what I say the media's movement is about or all about, so I think this discussion will continue. We can't bring it to a close today, but at least it has opened up an avenue for further and deeper analysis on how we will proceed forward. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much for dealing with most of the questions that were asked tonight. much time has been spent. I think we're going nearly 4 hours now on this call. I just want to very quickly, before I call on Dr. Obaseki to finally close up the session, I want to apologize to everyone, to my brother Ima IGHO and Dr. Andrew Oriab Habo. Please, my apologies. It was not deliberate. And those of you who may have been asking questions and maybe you felt it was a deliberate ploy to ignore you, nothing like that at all. Like the professor said in his closing remarks, these conversations must continue because it opens up a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of input. Like our erudite Professor Solomon, I would love to hear him speak, perhaps when his conversations come back again, perhaps next week. So please, my apologies to anyone who must have felt that they were slighted or their questions were not taken. It's not easy to be where I'm sitting, trying to get everybody's questions and attend to everything. On that note, please, I want to thank you so much for your time, for the input, and to our guest speaker. I did see the senior advocate Abeni Mohammed logged back in at a point, and I think I sent him a private message as well, just to say that we're looking for him, but we could not really get him to connect to this call. I'm quite sure that our convener would arrange for him to come back again and speak on these issues. On that note, please join me to make welcome Dr. Pedro Obaseki.
I want to thank everyone that has participated today. I was very happy at the point we reached 103 persons. That is great. And the very profile and array of persons we've had today shows that this is the way to go, so that we can duly educate our people. I was happy when I actually I screenshotted all those who participated, and it's happy for me to be seeing everybody from almost all the ethnic nationalities within our space, the 5 in Edo and the 8 in Delta. And that is great. Finally, I want to assure all of us that as people like us, there may be no immediate remuneration, in terms of what we need to get out of this. But Biniman talks, if one person get money for country, the man is poor. If only one person know anything, the man is actually uneducated. So we must use this to lift our people. Finally, I also want to tell us that please, we'll do this. We've in the Midwest movement, we've split the whole problems into silos so that we can easily attack the whole issue. So the headings may continuously be the clamor for self-determination and restructuring in Nigeria, and we'll be looking at various facets as it affects the Midwest peoples. I also want to assure you that as a result of the contacts provided by some of us here, people like Peter Omonowa and co, we've been able to reach out and have very great discussions with our far and near neighbors, whether it is Oduduwa, whether it's the Middle Belt, whether it's the Lower Niger Congress, whether it's the entire South-South. I want to say that we are not going to be left fallen. And if 1967, August, September, October happens again, nobody will ride roughshod over the people of the Midwest. History is on our side, education is on our side, and per capita, we are the most entrenched people in the diaspora. So when time comes to be able to engage the United Nations, to engage the United States of America and the United Kingdom of Great Britain, we know that there are many men of verve and purpose who are all Midwesterners, Bendelites, Edo, and Deltans. And I also want to say quickly that for the first time, since we've been doing this in the last few years, almost all the ethnic nationalities and their cultural and traditional and socio-political unions have lashed in on this. This is great. And please, many of you here will be getting in touch with you. Next week, I will make sure myself, AUSTYN, and a few others that we're able to get back the likes of Dr. Ozekhome and the likes of Professor Solomon OKPE. And I want to say clearly that I felt elated hearing the position and presentation of Professor NATUFE. The reason is we've been trying to get ways around. I was with Professor Gigi Dara just last week on how to make sure that everything is inclusive. And his heterogeneous and homogeneous creation of federating units is a different dimension. And thank God, although Professor Huegu pointed out that Ethiopia is having problems, the problem is not because of the system, but because of the operation or the operationality or those who are operating the system, which calls to question finally our leadership selection processes. And those processes have always thrown off the worst of us who keep representing and legislating on behalf of the rest and even the best of us. I thank you guys for this opportunity. I hope that our labor will not be to labor in vain, and by the grace of God, we of the Midwest, though our tribes and tongue may slightly differ, in brotherhood we stand. So for those of us who are Shekiri, I say Well, let me start with my people first. And my people in OKPE, I say they go to everybody, to my prof. I can see Akpedi in there. I want to say thank you all for coming. To my son brothers, I say for those of us who are all and for my Igbo speaking Delta brothers, I say Ogboshi, my brothers. And for me, the Benin people, I say and I say, walking away. Good night. God bless you guys. God bless you.